I could get everybody's. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. We have special guests here tonight. Very exciting weekend for these young ladies and gentlemen that are part of this great team. Want to bring this full circle, right? I think maybe Mr. Jackson has some detail, but when Marty Mack was mayor, we had won the first New York State championship when I was coaching a team, and head coach for the Portland youth hockey team as well. And we won the first state champion ever and was congratulated by the mayor then. So now we thought apropos to recognize this team and thank them for their achievement this weekend. This weekend, this 12U team has done, I think, first I talked to Aaron, the coach from at Red Jug at a funeral for one of his vehicles that took off. Had a sad time, and he said, I got the team this year. I think I got it. You know, he didn't jinx it. He did jinx it. We know that for now, but he said, I think I got it. So I did go to a game and watch the game when you were home before he went away. And I said, they got it. They can do it. And great coaching staff. You know, Coach Aaron Gray is the head coach. We certainly recognize him. Paul Quinlan, he's another protege. I coached Paul, not on the championship team that year, but I don't know, did we ever win, Paul? Runner up. Okay, was that the year after, a couple of years after? And it's great to see them giving back to the sport. Of course, Mark Jackson, he was the, just for you, you're the winning goal scorer, I believe, at that game after that horrific slashing penalty, because I did watch the game on. I did watch that streaming and I was like, what? So you're good, you redeemed yourself. But Coach Jackson was the goal scorer for that game too, when it was a tight game. He said, just bury up in the corner. Very similar. It was like deja vu, kind of like the Olympics, kind of that all came around a whole full cycle to do that. So it's kind of cool. And Mr. Jackson's in the corner and buried that home. Great stuff. Mike Hudson, Todd Van Loon, is Todd here? Let's see him, okay. Sean Daigle and Jacob Coulter. Did I say that right? And we had Julia Nye was the manager and Melissa Quinlan was the scheduler. So without all you parents stepping up, getting there, making investment, I know it's expensive, you had an expensive weekend, you get home late, right? Sunday night, I'm sure. And all those meals out and supporting these young men and women to make their achievements. It'd be good. So Aaron Gray, if you could come up as the head coach and we'll make sure you get this proclamation. Andy wants to, and the proclamation reads, whereas the city of Portland proudly celebrates the excellence in competition and sportsmanship of the Portland Flames 12U hockey team, which captured the 2025-2026 New York State Tier 3 Hockey Championship in a thrilling 3-2 overtime. I forgot to mention that. It was overtime. They pulled it off. I'm surprised he didn't get buried on a pilot. Victory on March 1st. Whereas the team completed an extraordinary 2025-26 season with a record 47-5-1. That's a lot of games your parents put in. And maintained a perfect undefeated record in tournament play, securing the prestigious titles of Miracle Holidays Classic in Lake Placid and the Rochester Presidential Powerball. Whereas this championship success is a testament of the talent, teamwork, and discipline of players Rose Jackson, Patrick Quinlan, Cohen Hudson, Wyatt Nye. Should I say something?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I'll say it again. Cohen Hudon. Wyatt Nye, Bennett Cook, James Pert, Gavin Gray, Joseph Techner, Reese Young, Garrett Van Loon, Case Anthonson, Max Canrath, say that right? Yeah. Owen Daigle, Zayden DeTrano, and Mason Johnson. Whereas the team's character and success has been shaped by the instruction of mentoring head coach Aaron Gray, assistants Paul Quinlan, Mark Jackson, Mike Hudson, Todd Van Loon, Sean Daigle, and Jacob Fulcher. Team support from all the parents and all the managers, but the city of Cortland congratulates and gives special recognition to the Cortland Flame 12U team for winning the New York State Tier 3 championship in their competitive spirit, teamwork, and sportsmanship, in which we take great pride. So with that, we'll make sure that we do that. I don't know if you want to just say yes.
Benny Cook.
Great scoring, 2 goals, I think, right? 2 goals, yeah.
Top scorer of the tournament.
Of the tournament, yeah, he had 2 good goals. That was awesome. I was waiting for that hat trick.
Owen
Throw
Daigle.
down your key.
Owen Daigle.
One day. He made some great saves. This is the goalie, the last line of defense, and he really made it happen. Thank you for that. David. David,
Come on, Z.
Oh, yeah.
Gav.
goal scorer extraordinaire, penalty slap.
Max. Colin. Wyatt. Rose.
Nice defensive play. Got the puck in the zone really well on defense. It's great.
Jimmy. Pac-Man. Joey. Garrett. And last but not least, Reese.
Coaches want to come up real quick? Any coaches come up and we can line up here and get a couple pictures?
Oh, yeah.
That man. Spread out right here, guys. Spread out this way so your parents can get a picture.
Backgrounds are. I wish to get all these.
Small hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys very much. Thank you. Thank you. I can go right out. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
When a speaker comes up, can you pass that? When the public comment starts, when a speaker comes up. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Good seeing you guys. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Mine is right.
Thanks for indulging that. Thanks so much. Great excitement for the kids, for sure. All right, we'll move on to the public hearing. 6/14, March 3rd. Public hearing number 1 regarding renewal of franchise agreement with Spectrum, provider of cable services in the city of Portland. Anybody here to speak to that? Going twice, public hearing number 1 regarding renewal of franchise agreement with Spectrum as provider of cable services in the city of Portland. Last call, public hearing number 1 regarding renewal of franchise agreement with Spectrum as provider of cable services in the city of Portland. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and I will follow the order, please.
Councilmember Tobin. Here. Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Pinello is recorded absent. Councilmember Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Conlon.
Here.
Councilmember Carpenter. Here. Councilmember Beckwith. Present. Councilmember Michaels.
Here.
All rise and salute to the flag. I believe.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 3 to speak to the privilege of the forum. Do you mind, will that mic reach? No of that.
Good evening, council. I'm here to speak on agenda item number 5 and number 6. Those are both bond resolutions. My main worry is we are out of money. We have negative money. Okay, the bond resolution for the Yaman Beach, the 4.7 million. It's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful that we got the swims grant from New York State. However, we have to come up with another additional just shy of $1 million, and that's gonna come out of straight debt. Okay, I think the city grows a little bit jaundiced of debt right now. Number 2, speaking on what is going to the downtown core project, and I can only assume that that means the additional funding for the DRI. So I've got a prepared statement on that. But the city finds itself in a very precarious financial position. Last month, the new finance director stated we were likely to finish 2025 with a $2.5 million debt. According to the AFR, a report submitted to the state by the city of Portland, we finished 2024 with only $108,000 in the general fund. One can only assume just 2 plus 2 there. We're now dealing with a $2.4 million debt in our general fund. Okay. And I'm happy to be proven wrong on any of this. Taking a closer look at expenses yet to be recorded in 2025, as of our last finance report, from the former finance director, I'm led to believe we may actually be closer to $6 million deficit in 2025. And again, I'm happy I've got that report with me. If anybody has any questions, I'm glad to go over that with you and show you why I believe what I believe. This conundrum can only mean a few things. 1, vendors are not getting paid, and as you all noticed at a previous meeting, we had a vendor come in here and state he was not getting paid. Number 2, we might be looking at account transfers to cover the shortfall. We don't have enough money to cover the shortfall in any fund. Number 3, we're looking at taking on debt like a 7.9 million, the 7.9 million requested by the DRI bond resolution. Let's be clear, the DRI is over. The money has been spent. Why on earth would we be taking out more debt for a completed project? Well, I'll throw out a hypothesis. The general fund is tapped, it's been overspent. And this bond would cover the tracks of an out-of-control city spending problem while saddling us with devastating debt. The city made massive mistakes with our money and does not want this to come to light. Please do not approve another dollar of debt until we have our fiscal house in order. That means both of these resolutions, that means any additional debt, I beg you, we're on the cliff here. And I've been saying this to y'all for, some of you, if you read your email, I've been saying this to you for 3 years. This resolution should be supported with a DRI project budget. It should show all the revenues and all the expenses in that DRI project, and it should show exactly what the $7.9 million is going to. Until then, I'm left to assume this bond resolution is merely a cover-up for gross overspending on unapproved and unplanned expenses, most unrelated to the original vision of the DRI. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Down to.
Thank you. Mayor, thank you. You usually give good explanations at the end of the meetings. And reading the agenda, I had questions on Noah's comments, and shed some light on them. But on resolution 6, 7, and 8, the bond resolution for the downtown core, I wasn't sure exactly what the downtown core included. On item number 7, amending the sewer fund budget. I remember that in the old days, there was a digester to digest dairy waste and big gas and generate electricity from that. I just wanted to see if that's still what that is. Okay, and number 8. Amending the budget to allocate funds for a park and recreation vehicle. I looked down the list, I didn't see any vehicles, so I was confused. A lot of things. So thank you for that.
Dr. Coolin?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Portland City Common Council. I hope what I have to say results in some happy news. In January of 2025, Mayor Scott Steve kindly showed me the blueprints for transitional housing, also known as 24/7 shelter, 365 days a year, for which he had received a grant through the Common Council, I understand. And which he described to me as including 40 rooms with shared baths, kitchen, living room, and an MSW social work to help find housing and other services for the unhoused, the homeless, the newly called placeless, by a January 226 book that just came out entitled Placeless. And it's a wonderful book. It's at the Cortland Free Library if you would like to see it when I return it today. And he has solutions for homelessness, unhoused people, placeless, as he called them. So I'd recommend it to you. An article on the shelter appeared in the Portland Standard on January 14th, last year, 2025. On August 26, 2025, at a pizza meet and greet, the Unhoused Forum I organized, to which the community was invited with great success. We had a lot of people come out and a lot of people eating pizza. I find pizza is a drawer and I always get good pizza. Okay, there's at that, Mayor Scott Steve and one of your council members, let's see, attended, and he told us the ground had broken for the transitional housing shelter. Mayor Steve and I had earlier led a forum on the unhoused at which citizens, and for the first time, unhoused people had the opportunity to speak, and they did. They were very thankful for the new gray space and the one that we had last year, and for SOS also providing space out of the cold in the mornings until a few weeks ago that we had a report from the mayor But they also have suggestions and want you to know what it's like to be unhoused. Especially when it's 10 degrees below. So what I gave you as a handout is their comments at a Pizza Friday in September. In which they were invited to write down their thoughts, suggestions, hopes, etc. And so you have a one-page handout on that if you have a moment to read. I think you might find it informative. We were invited to speak, the mayor and I, at the City Portland campus by the president, Eric Bitterbaum, on May 4th. Council member Pat Lane and other community leaders attended. And in October on my Pizza Fridays, because they go without food for 16 hours on Fridays. So there's a sandwich, usually it's a sandwich at Loaves and Fishes. There are only 2 suppers a week. And even then, they need donations for more food. So the unhoused are subsisting on 1 meal a day, which is often a sandwich or hot dogs. So on Fridays, because of that, I was bringing pizza. There was no food offered until recently, and that's also a sandwich on Sundays. So the last 2 years, I've been making hot stews and stuff on Sundays and bringing it after church. Often we were outside of the library. So anyway, in October, I took the unhoused to various agencies who were happy to have us. And they spoke to them about what services they offer. And the unhoused didn't know about this, and they even took notes when we were at the Career Works. Did you know that if you get a job, if you're in dire straits, you can get steel-toed shoes through the Career Works once you prove you have a job? And for many of these jobs, they just don't have the clothing or the steel-toed shoes and that they need. And this is just a wonderful service that they just never heard of before. And the first month they get a bus pass. I've also been trying to get used bikes for them. And they really appreciate that because many of the unhoused do work. They just don't have a place to live. Anyway, many of you know this already, but excuse me. And we also invited several others to go speak to them. For example, Portland County Mental Health, they actually came to us in the park. Dr. Carl Schmidt did, and he spoke to the unhoused. And he handed out bracelets at 988 for suicide, but other things too, whenever you're in need. And I just thought that was wonderful. I'm almost done.
You are out of time, but.
Oh, I am.
Good,
Just
right.
finish
Thank
up.
you.
Oh, okay. We also went to SOS because they didn't know they were there. They're across town. And so we found out that they get $1 million a year almost to find housing. That's their number one job. Okay, in conclusion, how's that? May I request, Mr. Mayor, that you give us an update on this wonderful grant funded for the transitional housing 24/7 and the ground already broken, as you told me, in August 2025. Perhaps you could give a brief update on the shelter progress for everyone during a mayoral report, maybe today. And I see that the government reporter from the Standard is here. Also, I'm sure she'd be happy to speak with you, Sydney. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I was waiting for an awful sound. I'm so sorry.
Right, thank you. Anybody else to speak? Mr. Dexter.
Here to talk about taxes, and it won't take too long, I hope. I made the mistake of not paying my taxes on time, which was yesterday. So I came today and I paid my taxes, first half, I paid the penalty because I was a day late. But I also paid the second half, which I always do. And I also realized that there's a 2.5% interest on the second half, even if you pay it ahead of time. I brought this issue up many years ago for the fact that the school district does not charge interest if you pay the first half, the installment, and if you wait till February to pay the second half, there's no interest. It's not that much, and I'm really not so concerned about myself, but the people that are on a fixed income, I think they should get a little bit of a break, especially with taxes going up 15% between the county and the city this year. When I was walking the streets and reading meters, I went in many houses.
where there were people who were living on social security strictly alone. And people used to say, well, your water bill's only going up 5%, your gas bill's only going up 5%, your electric bill's only going up 2%, but you put all those onlys together, it goes up to a fairly hefty price. And with the school taxes being what they are, it's almost 20% this year between county taxes, city taxes, and school taxes. I also read Mr. Chu's letter to the editor tonight in the paper, talking about the issues that the school district is going to have very shortly, using up all of their extra money that they had set aside, and there's no extra money set aside anymore. So obviously, taxes probably will be going up there. Like I said, my main concern is not for myself. I got a couple part-time jobs, I get a pension, I get social security. But I'm more concerned about the people in the city who live on social security and whatever else they may be able to get to pay these increased taxes every year. And the city taxes, at one time was 4%, 5%, and it finally ended up at 8%. It said with the county taxes going up 7%, it's just a 15% increase just between the county and the city. So I just want to make you aware of that, and that there are a lot of people out there who are struggling to pay their taxes. I think if you look at the list of people unpaid taxes in the county, it's probably pretty hefty. So just for your own information, and I thought I'd bring it up tonight. Thank you.
Proclamations. Proclamation number 1, declaring March as Women's History Month, City of Portland.
Resolved that I, Scott Steve, Mayor of the City of Portland, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Women's History Month in the City of Portland, and urge all citizens to recognize and celebrate the contributions and achievements of women in our community and throughout our nation.
And it was second proclamation declaring support for this America 250th commemoration in the City of Portland.
Resolved by the Common Council of the City of Portland, New York, that the City of Portland hereby formally endorses and supports the America 250 commemoration, including the efforts of the New York State 220th Commemoration Commission. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation shall be transmitted to the New York State 250th Commemoration Commission, the Governor of New York, and members of the New York City Legislature.
Exciting year, 250 years in history. So this to see the events the same. All right, I'll go on to the mayor's report. On 2/18, attended Parliamentary Town Board meeting with the Village of Homer Mayor. Attached the letter from all three of the mayors from McGraw, Homer, and the city, asking them to reconsider and withdraw and add back to the mutual aid funding, the recreation fund, so we didn't have to alienate or separate out the citizens of Portlandville and other areas. Just hate to have that happen, so we're putting a plea into that to try to reinstate that, but we're already getting phone calls that are not friendly. On the 19th, the parking fee schedule review committee had their initial meeting, and then we'll follow up next week. On 2/20, attended a retirement walkout with Officer Ben Locke. Certainly he'll be missed. Also on the 20th, the code office fee schedule review committee initial meeting with them as well. They will be following next week as well. And then on the 25th, attended the chairman's roundtable at the county. We discussed taxes and property taxes. New York State was there for property taxes and understanding that the property taxes and what we can do to mitigate those and try to keep our rates up as far as assessed values, and not do a big assessment every year. So some good information there. And then the 26th, the audit and finance committee had their initial meeting, and during the next meeting to be determined. Then we talked about the hockey team on the 27th, and attended on the 28th, attended the SPCA, the 11th Paws basket raffle at the Elks Lodge, which raised over $2,100. for that event. It was a lot of fun, and we had a good time doing that. Yes, it's nice to get out there as well. Upcoming Ward 3 meeting, I believe, is at the Waterworks on the 5th at 6 o'clock is on my calendar. And then on the 6th is family night at the YMCA from 6 to 8. Legislative breakfast on Friday at 9 a.m. at the Elks. And then on the 13th, next month, Seven Valley Health Coalition annual community counts forum at CRT. And then, here, shelter update, so I just wanna, talk about that briefly. So as we all know, the Warming Center opened up their shelter there. And, there's currently other projects going on, for, other housing assistance needs that, Catholic Charities is working on, so I'm not quite sure, other than the project that we are working on over, for the Warming Center, that was I assume the groundbreaking opening there. But that's, so we'll continue to try to do everything we can to work with our non-for-profits in our unhoused situation, and we'll continue to try to make us work, and I appreciate the input of this document. It's always good to, I do talk to them frequently, but it's also good to hear it put together from a pizza perspective, from having their comfort food to be able to talk about what issues they really see is in front of them. So thank you for that. Ward reports, number 1.
Well, to thank Public Works, we had an issue on a dead end with some plowing that's being addressed, also pothole on Homer Ave. I think it's important to note when people are aware, if they're reported, it gives us a better opportunity to replace potholes before they become hazards. Also, I had a resident had a missing tote that got handled without me being involved, which is appreciated. Did have a question in terms of agenda items, and Mr. Jewett, we exchanged emails. There's been 2 times where I've asked in terms of items to be placed on council agenda, and it hasn't happened. So in addition to doing a fair amount of research on city financials and some of the other things, we did have that committee meeting last week. There were some recommendations that I wanted to discuss tonight, and they forwarded to council for different potential resolutions that I asked council to consider placing on tonight's agenda.
Well, for tonight.
Well, I think all 4 are relevant, and if we want to break it up. But we need to start making some actions.
Okay. Ward 2.
Okay, I have spoken to Brian about those resolutions, and I would support having them on the agenda to discuss. I think we need to discuss a drainage situation. I also had a meeting with the head of the codes department. Ms. Lane was there, and Tom was there, and the mayor was there. And we discussed the codes and the costs associated with some of them. So that was good. We have a follow-up meeting coming up on Thursday. Right? Is it Thursday? And it's been pretty quiet in the second ward. The last thing I wanted to add is that the YMCA in Portland has a free program. You don't have to be a member of the Y, for people who are going through or have survived cancer. Men, women, all ages, it's available. It's a free 12-week membership. Actually, it says adult membership. There would be 2 to 3 classes a week. The times are not set. It would be cardiovascular conditioning, strength training, balance and flexibility exercises, fitness and quality of life assessments before and after participation. With YMCA certified instructors helping you every step of the way. So if you're interested in something like this, or if you know somebody who's interested, they need at least 5 people to sign up in order to make this happen. I'm very interested. So you can email a woman named Liz at Livestrong, all one word, Livestrong at IthacaYMCA.com.
as this program becomes, so pass the word along. I'll try and get a flyer put up in the mayor's office. Okay, thanks. That's it from the second board.
That's right.
Quiet in the fourth. And I attended a meeting at the firehouse, the liaison, the fire department. I did take a tour of Grace Place. What an amazing facility. It's just, they've thought of everything. And I'm sure it's going to be well received by anyone who needs anything that they have. I attended the code fee meeting, personnel meeting last Friday. And I worked at the SPCA for the Love of Paws event on Saturday. It was a great time, and I want to thank Jade for all the work she did to make it happen, and Stacy as well.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Thank you. So I ended up rescheduling my ward meeting. That will be this coming Monday, 3/9, from 6 to 7 in Beaudry Park. So I apologize for the inconvenience there. I had a hard time getting word out, so working on getting people aware that that is coming up. We also had a fire over in the 5th ward. So I'd like to thank the folks at the fire department for their response, and thank Chief Friedman for his communicating with me on that. I appreciate it. I've been working with code enforcement. There's some issues over on Reynolds Ave that Captain never communicated with me. They're working on addressing. And then last week, Deputy Police Chief Q was kind enough to take the time to walk me through the AI cameras on Main Street and some of the functionality there, as well as safeguards that they have. So that was great, and I appreciate that. And that does it. It's cool.
I'll apply to 6th ward that did attend Ben Rock's walkout one with Memorial. So that. I didn't see that. That's it.
Mr. Beckwith.
Pretty quiet, just real quick, remind everybody about the St. Baldrick's. It's Saturday the 14th, and last year they broke a record on donations. The fire department generated quite a lot. March 14th, Red Joe Club at noon. And then also just the stories you hear from these young. Some is from the family that their kids have passed away, and some of them were survivors and are still fighting. It's heartwarming. So you get a chance, you can stop down on the that's pretty fun.
Mr. Beckwith, who do we contact if we want a contribution?
St. Baldrick's.org, I think it is. If you want to find a sponsor like the fire department, or like, throw names out there, but John Reagan generates a lot for the organization. But there's a lot of people out there that have a website up that you can donate, even though it all goes to the St. Baldrick. You can use their name or.
We used to have police officers doing that, Chief, or firefighters doing it.
I know,
There you go.
couple firemen had some sites up on there.
On their website, those, the little St. Baldrick website, you can drive into Fulton, and then within that, you can see teams.
Yeah.
The PD will have a team. You have to get the goals themselves. The fire will have a team, and then you can support each as a team or individual.
Okay.
We had a fireman last year, I forget the gentleman's name, he decided he wanted his haircut, I think just the time he was there. We raised $1,000 just to count him and getting his haircut.
He saw it, he was moved, and he did it, it's fun. That was a Mr. Michaels.
I also attended Officer Black's walkout, and this year this time they actually had fireworks, which was a nice touch. Did surprise some individuals, but others will really appreciate it. Also attended the parking commission meeting last week. We reviewed ticket procedures, some of the tables that involve the fee structures, and at some point we'll have something back to the council in the near future. But as of right now, we're just kind of getting our feet wet, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll know a little bit more. attended the town gown meeting, Monday. That was well attended as well. A lot going on with our college. Some of the events that will be posted on the city's website. Those are interested. Also had constituents concerns regarding the upcoming bond proposal. And I was able to answer some of their questions. So that's all I have for my age role. Thank you.
Thank you. So while we got everybody open here, I'll address some of these agenda items that wanted to be put on. I'm also solicit another person that would like to be on the audit finance team. Tenants issues, I'll make sure there's enough people there to be able to do it. If that interest, I don't know if we get after they will do it, I don't know if somebody else has interest, I think certainly use more help to be honest to be able to do that. So when we had the audit and finance committee meeting, the idea is to discuss where and level of detail that we don't necessarily do in this meeting, not to belabor everybody here, but to have those discussions and then bring it back to here with the recommendations and those ideas and thoughts to make things better. That's the purpose of that audit and finance that we put in that directive. So it would make appropriate sense that we would pull any of those kind of thoughts or ideas that are not already being done or have been done, to be able to do that. Now, one of the resolution was to create an audit and finance committee, which we do have, and also was to add civilians, which is up to that audit and finance committee to be able to do that. I would like to solicit another person on so that we can make sure we have appropriate attendance and make sure that we get attendance to those meetings and truly discuss the best how things are moving, where things are going, and make sure that it's communicated back in your words to this general body as I understand.
Can you remind us who is on that committee currently?
Currently now it's Mr. Tobin, Mr. Conlon, and Ms. Fennell. And which, I think all have great aptitude to be able to do it. And I think that's great. I would really like to have another one there so that we end up with just 2 members there. I think it's important to have those communications and have different ways to look at it and really kind of talk about, where Mr. Shager is on addressing the issues, where those are dealt with, the level of detail on whether it's, the short-term problems. I mean, to put it bluntly, it's a big knotted mess, and to start breaking apart some of this knot a little bit at a time is going to be an important factor that has to be worked out, and strategically working on that is just great to have that input and discussions in a manner that's productive and what needs to be resolved. So approval of minutes. Did you get a chance to read the minutes? May I have any questions? May I have a motion to accept them? Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Beckwith, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution agenda number 1. Authorize renewal of franchise agreement with Spectrum as provider of cable services in the city of Clifton.
Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council hereby authorizes Mayor Steve to execute a non-exclusive franchise agreement with Spectrum Northeast LLC for a 15-year period in consideration of an annual franchise fee in an amount equal to 5% of the company's annual gross revenue.
I get a motion? Mr. Conlon, Mr. Beckwith, or I'm sorry, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Beckwith. Any questions? Okay, move it please.
Councilmember Tobin,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman, Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 2, authorize school resource officer memorandum of understanding with the Cortland large city school district.
Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council does hereby authorize Mayor Steve and Police Chief Guerrero to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Cortland Large City School District to maintain a part-time school resource officer position for a period that shall commence January 1st, 2026 and expire December 31st, 2028. And be it further resolved that consistent with previous agreements, The Cortland Large City School District will pay the SRO's full salary of $55,000 and related costs. The city police department will provide appropriate training and allow the SRO to utilize a marked patrol vehicle while on duty. And the school district will provide fuel based on SRO related usage.
Can I get a motion? Ms. Lang? Mr. Collins? So this is going up from 35,000 to 55,000, so, it used to be there's a max cap that they can do 35,000. Which is obviously, difficult for that time period that they have. It's 1,000 or 180 days, that's what it is, 180 days that they cover. And this contract will be from 6 hours a day to 7 hours a day, so they get better coverage. And this will be 2 SROs, the current one and Mr. Locke, who just retired. Officer Locke. Any questions? And move it, please.
Councilmember Tobin.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 3, authorized collective bargaining agreement with Teamsters Local 317 representing wastewater treatment facility employees.
Resolved that the collective bargaining agreement between the city of Portland and Teamsters Local 317 is hereby approved and ratified, and be it further resolved, the Mayor Steve and designated city officials are hereby authorized to execute said collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the city of Portland with the Teamsters Local 317 for a 4-year contractual term dated January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2029.
Any motion? Mr. Beckwith, Mr. Carpenter, any questions?
Yeah, what has changed since we last had conversation about this? Mr. Shager, financial status of the wastewater budget. Can you give us, I mean, you talked a little bit about it 2 weeks ago.
I said 2 weeks ago that it looks like the 25 fiscal year was gonna have a loss of roughly $250,000. In 26, the funds that were shorted in the budget, I found, and it's gonna be covered through NYSERDA grant money. And I believe, can't remember the exact number, but it's significantly greater than what we need to make up, as well as, I believe all of the increases in the wages was covered in the budget itself. So I don't see this being a problem towards the wastewater budget.
Okay, but the budget, this is retroactive to January 1, and we're currently underwater, is what I'm hearing. So I have a hard time, and I'm not sure why council is being put in a position to vote on an agenda item that we don't have the funding in place now, because you're talking about funding that's gonna come in later. And I thought our discussion at the last meeting, last time we talked about this, was that we needed to make sure that we have money before we're spending it.
I don't recall that conversation as such, but I remember that the financing. But there was a meeting, I was not here, so I don't know if that was discussed at that point. But I mean, it's just like any other budget in line, it's a budgeted structure, and it's budgeted for, and there's money to pay for it based on that budget. So we can't, I feel like we can't stop flushing toilets. And stop our business, our state of business, and this contract is old and it's dated prior to, COVID. So we lost an employee last week due to salary, due to money from this agency itself and from DPW. Which again, there needs to be guidelines or structure behind what we have, but again, we need to continue, we need to be prudent, we need to be conscientious, we need to pay attention. And we need to be diligent about what we're up against. We have 10 months to make sure it's right. And we went through line by line of the item in the budget. Mr. Shager has some adjustments to be made on the budget later on, a budget resolution, budget mods to get the budget to a balance to what it is. By any means, we don't think we're out of that woods yet, because there was that $2.5 million is due from, that are some of the issues, which again is part of the bond resolution to resolve those cash flows that were planned on being paid for. According to the plan on the master plan of the three construction projects prior to 2021. In 2020, that was planned. So, but I feel like we can't short these employees and not move our facility and empty, so we don't have employees left to be able to do it. So there is money in that set, and that's a budget item, and so I guess that's all I have to say.
And we approved every other department's contract. And I, for one, do not want to make wastewater the ugly stepchild that has to pay the price for everybody else.
Certainly not, and we're not asking any one department or employees to pay the price for others,
You are.
but, well, I heard that we were 2.5 million in the hole last year, so maybe there should have been more discussion about some of those contracts last year as well. We're not in a good place. And I apologize, but I cannot vote for funding something that we don't have the money to fund.
Matt,
Add something.
yeah, the NYSERDA grant was north of $700,000, which is well in excess of any raises that are in this contract, the full term of the contract. Additionally, I know Mr. McMahon could probably speak to it on much more detail than I can. We've seen a significant increase in the funding from receiving DAF, and we expect there to be another significant increase later this year. So, I mean, I understand that the city as a whole is in a tight financial situation. It's important to realize that this is not the general fund we're talking about here. This is the wastewater fund. That big 2.5 million number is tied largely to the general fund, not to the wastewater fund. Chuck can correct me if I'm going wrong here.
You're correct.
So I mean, we're talking about like Chuck said, there was a several $100,000 deficit last year in wastewater. The revenues are going to be probably $1 million more than they were last year. So, I mean, I understand, yes, we have problems we need to fix. I don't think this is one of them that's going to fix the city's problem. So, thank you.
Before you go, we had asked last time what percentage of the salary was going up each time. You didn't have percentages, you had a different way of figuring that out.
It's per hour, yeah, no.
Yeah. Were you able to come up with a percentage? Because I think the perception was that it was very generous, and that was one of the concerns, that during a difficult year that we were being extremely generous.
It was generous in year one because they had fallen significantly behind market rate. Years 2, 3, and 4 of the agreement, because they wanted to go with a set dollar amount, basically we set a 3% raise in each of the outlying years. We made it a pool and then came up with the dollar amount that we could give them. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 75 cents a dollar and 75 cents. I don't have it in front of me right now, I'm sorry, but it was provided to council. You have the full contract. But basically, if you add up the amounts for all the workers, it comes out to about a 3% change in each of the outlying years. The first year, I think, was probably closer to 6 or 7%. But they're significantly, like I said, behind the other ones. And we did provide to council the comparisons that Ms. Greenwood had pulled when we were setting up negotiations.
Anybody else? Okay. Move it, please.
Councilmember Tobin,
Nay.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 4, State Environmental Quality Review Act, seeker declaration of type 3 action regarding the reconstruction and improvement of the bathhouse and pavilions at Unit Beach.
Resolved by the members of the Common Council of the City of Portland, New York as follows. 1, the Common Council has determined that the project constitutes a type 2 action under 6 of the New York State Code rules and regulations, section 617.5 C2. replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, including upgrading buildings to meet building, energy, or fire codes as defined in the regulations, and no further action under under the SECRA Act and the regulations is required. And two, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Motion. Back with Mr. Carpenter. Any questions?
Who did the seeker? Just, I mean, we're approving the seeker I haven't seen.
Randall? That secret hasn't been done yet, has it, or has it?
It's a type 2 action. There's really no process in doing it.
I know, I'm just.
Yeah.
Making sure everybody else knew what was going on
Yeah.
with the seekers, so.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Councilmember Tobin,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 5, bond resolution for the city of Portland authorizing issuance of $4,796,965 serial bonds to finance the cost of reconstruction and improvements of the bathhouse and pavilions at Hammond Beach.
All right, so, I'd be happy to read the entire, resolved statement if the council would like. But I think that the first two sections probably, get to the substance of it. Be it resolved by the common council of the city of Cortland, New York as follows. Section 1, the city of Cortland, New York is hereby authorized to undertake the reconstruction and improvement of the bathhouse and pavilions at Yemen Beach, whether or not including grading or improvement of the site, original furnishings, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required at a maximum estimated cost of $4,796,965, and to use serial bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed that same amount, pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law to finance the estimated cost of the aforesaid specific object or purposes. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the maximum estimated cost of the aforesaid specified objects or purposes is $4,796,965. Said amount is hereby appropriated therefore, and the plan for the financing thereof shall consist of the issuance of not to exceed that same amount in serial bonds of the city authorized to be issued pursuant to this resolution and to the local finance law.
Okay, motion. Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Beckwith. Mr. Shager, maybe you can explain that the 4.7 is not in total.
The let's say 4.8 million is the full cost of the project, the total cost. Looking at some of the old bond resolutions you've done, sometimes our cost associated with this is $900,000 and change, and sometimes we would just borrow the 900,000. And the bond say the total cost is 4.8, would borrow 900. I did this a little different. I'm putting that we could borrow 4.8 million total if we wanted to. I'm looking towards only borrowing the 900,000. But if something came about, and my concern is, this runs through DASNY, New York State grant. I've had experience before where DASNY does not pay you in a timely basis. I don't want to have the city out $3.9 million and not be able to borrow for it. So if that becomes the case, I'd come back to you and say, we're gonna borrow this other $3.9 million, ask you first and then borrow it. Okay, but the resolution's already in place. It's just a matter of just coming back and confirming with you what we're gonna do. Short term, in the May borrowing, it would be borrow the $900,000 upfront, our portion of the cost that will go long term at some point down the road.
If necessary, part of that in kind, we had some in kind costs that we were going to try to do we're estimating about $350,000 we can do in kind in demolition and prep work ourselves, so that would reduce that cost even better. So I think that was addressed, I believe, to everybody from an email or a letter from Ms. Pettigrosa as well.
I've got a question for Chuck. We approved this on October 27th. 2025. Why now?
You approved a grant to accept a grant for that 3.8 million, saying that the project could be 4.8, and that the city would have $900,000 worth of costs associated with it. There was no way of how's that $900,000 gonna be paid. It was mentioned in there that it was gonna be a bond ordinance, but a bond ordinance is a legal document that goes into many different forms of government that you need to do. Okay, we never did that part of it.
So at that time, I believe that because it was done that way on bands, I believe Ms. Greenwood believed that you could do the same with that. And it's my fault, we didn't know the better, so this is cleaning that up.
So if we don't accept this now, what are the chances of getting it again or having it still? Being able to get the grant.
It's a grant that comes into play. These grants are not offered that often. I've also researched this. Found that, grants of this size, cities jump on very quickly. We were prepared for something like this, so, we have a good chance of coming through. A lot of legwork went into this. Some of the other grants that I've seen regarding parks and recreation only amount to something like 5,000, maybe 10,000 tops. This is an opportunity that doesn't come that often, and to pass this up is certainly gonna hurt the city as well as that park. And as we all know, that's an aging park, it's not a new park, so it needs the work that's proposed in this grant.
And it needs to be ADA accessible, which it isn't right now.
That's true, that's true.
That has to be done.
Is there a way to express to the state that we are interested in the grant, and just that given the current financial situation, the council needs some more time to consider the grant proposal before approving it?
You'd have to talk to Andrea about that. I couldn't answer that question.
Here,
No,
It's not like, let's make a deal.
right,
They'll just move on to some other city. They're not gonna say, well, okay, let's see how the court is gonna shake out.
when that resolution was passed, it made that was the commitment we made to the state that we would fund that, how it was gonna be funded. And that was an important factor. Again, I think we need to mitigate what that is, and certainly we all don't, it's gonna take a while just to close out 2025, next month. But those timelines are gonna tick past, so the timeline that this has, we run out past the timeline that this project is planned to do is. The demo would begin as soon as the park would close at the end of fall. We would demo the buildings, we would get prepped and start doing some of the retaining wall, hopefully get the foundation in by the end of the year. Bidding needs to start before that, obviously, so we need to finish those, the renderings are in pretty good shape. And then the following spring, be able to get everything constructed so it can be in use for next year. So there's a tight line to be able to use that.
People, DPW, they could do a lot of.
That's the in-kind work that we're gonna try to mitigate a lot of that with. So
This is very important to this area. The constituents are very happy with this project. They're very excited about this. I know the Union Foundation is extremely excited about this project.
and conversely, I agree, but conversely, they wouldn't be excited if they had a 70% tax increase or 7, that's all gonna be manageable too. But I think, it has to be reasonably looked at, say, what is that? What would that look like if you sped out, just quick numbers, $50,000 a year for 20-year, this would be a 20-year bond, right?
This would be a 15-year, but if you've got 750,000, divide that by 15, what's that, 60,000 plus interest?
Okay. So that's the nut you would have to crack in those budgets after that to be able to cover that. So, and again, like we have to do, we have a lot of work to do to figure out that 2.5 and be able to get that done. And then certainly we need to make ourselves cash solvent, which is what the next bond resolution is for.
so we have people talking to us about their taxes that are too high. And people are worried about the deficit that we have as a city. what do we tell them about where the money to pay back this bond is coming from? Because they don't want it coming out of their pockets anymore. We can't raise taxes this much next year.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're following, I think, Mr. Beckett mentioned it, or somebody, Mr. Chu maybe mentioned it, the high schools deficit problems as well.
And the county,
County, the same, you know, the county, I was looking at that, like, we assess $11 million on property, the county is 9 million. So you look at what we're getting, and, so I think we have to be able to make those tough decisions when it comes to what we wanna do and how we wanna manage things, and that we need to look at the 25%, where we cover 25% of the whole county tax levy. What can we do more to working together towards saving those dollars so that those taxpayers aren't paying, you know, $9 and $11 million back and forth on those two budget line items. So, you know, ever since this has been worked out, you know, we've been diligent working on a plan to try to, so we have a long-term plan, to be able to resolve those issues. So, I don't know if I answered your question.
not really, what do I tell my people?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the cost, you can't guarantee any costs aren't gonna go back to any of it. So the taxes, you know, I mean, that's part of our tax base doing it. But if you had to pay $5 million, and if we don't do this now and you have $5 million, that's gonna be a bigger cost, that part would go away. You know, I guess you gotta look at it that way. I mean, you can't ever look at, you know, you got those significant investments, kind of like our fire trucks, we got, you know, $1 million, we gotta put up $100,000 to get that $1 million. Wasn't that a better way of spending that than paying 1/10 of what that is, and we have that need?
Yes,
No,
but
I
I
mean, so
think
that's the
people
same.
can see the value in a fire truck in Gaiman. We've done a lot of improvements at Gaiman Park, and I agree that the bathhouse is old, but it's still serviceable. I don't know about the snack shack part of it because nobody's operated that for a few years. It just, I think they want to see belt tightening from us.
Understood.
This is a good project, and this is a lot of money from the state. It's a 20% match by the city. The problem is, we don't know how we're going to match it. And until Mr. Shager has more time to work through the financials, I would say it would be premature to approve taking on, and I think it's actually closer to $1 million in terms of the city's share of this.
How soon does the state need our answer?
Well, it's the bond council that needs the answer. The state has our answer. According to them, that's where our motion is going.
Yeah.
But it's the bond council that needs to be doing that. I think that has to be done.
What the process is, we have to borrow the money in May. I have to have everything to them by early April. So basically, you got potentially 1 week to say yes or no. If it doesn't happen by the next meeting, I cannot put it on to a borrowing thing in the May time period. Okay? The actual dollar amount that we're looking at is $900,000 and change, but there's gonna be some in-kind stuff to that. We believe that's gonna be closer to 750. I think 700 to 750 is what it's gonna be our out-of-pocket cost that we'll have to fund through a bond for the next 15 years. That would be basically 60,000 plus out of the general fund budget going forward in the next 15 years.
Yeah.
I also think it's very clear to everybody, because this is a bond, we need
2/3.
six people that are here tonight to vote, I think, right? To vote for it.
Need six members.
2/3 majority of the whole. So whether they're here or not, we need to have 2/3 majority of the whole.
We have a no, so.
Okay.
Also, know that we have some bonds that are due to expire within the next 5 years or so.
There's one bond that is paid off next year. I don't know the exact number, Tom, that they asked me about, but there is one being paid off next year.
And how much do you know how much we were paying on it?
On that bond, I don't know off the top of my head. I was looking up some numbers and I can send it out to everybody, but I can actually send you out our bond schedules, our amortization schedule that we have as of today.
Have you? How are you feeling about our financial situation right now? You've gotten in the quote feet, you.
I got my feet wet quite quickly. I have not looked at all the nitty gritty details. I've looked at a lot of the higher dollar values. I think what everyone needs to be very cognizant of, the problems that we had in the 24 budget and the 25 budget is all related to one revenue line that was budgeted that did not come in. In 24, I think it was $3 million. In 25, it was 2.3 and change. Neither one of those numbers came in. I wasn't here. I didn't create the budget. I don't know what it was for. Okay. I've mentioned this to Tom and to Brian last Thursday. That is our difference. Our expenses for the year were under budget in both years. Let me correct that. In 25, what we budgeted for expenses, we spent less than that. Our revenue numbers came in significantly less because of mainly that one line item.
There were some other expenditures, though. If you look at the 2024 budget, personnel costs in at least two departments were overspent by close to $1 million, 300,000 in one and 600 in another. There's been issues in terms of the budget, and it's been more than just over the past year.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, Brian. I know in 25, there was some departments that were over budget on the labor, but as a whole, I'm looking at the revenue numbers were up, mostly due to that one line item, and the expenses were under what was budgeted. Now, there's different reasons for that. I mean, we didn't spend all the CHIPS money, okay? So there's different reasons for that, okay? But as a whole, that's what really occurred. And if you, that 2.5 million, I could tie right back to that 2.3 million that did not come in.
So you know where the hole is, and you've gone through. And line by line, where to find money to make up the difference.
I've gone through the larger line items, okay? And going forward, we put things in place so that before someone can spend money, and I'm not gonna say this is gonna be 100%, it has to come through a process for approval. Okay, in the past, it was after the fact, okay? I put something using our system so that requisitions come in prior to approval, okay, not after the fact.
Yeah. Okay, but are you feeling like we can absorb this?
I think there's gonna be, I'm gonna answer this very honestly. We have to make a lot of hard decisions going forward, because we have a $2.5 million deficit to make up, okay? If this is part of that, this is recreational for the people of, the city, from what I can tell and what people have told me, it gets used quite a bit, okay? It's something that the residents will use, okay? I don't think you wanna take a product that the residents use and take it away from them. That's just my opinion, okay? But, $60,000, how do we find it someplace out of the budget? When we go through and start doing that budget in August and September, that's be some of the hard decisions that the mayor and I and department heads will have to make. And to bring to you at the next budget.
Okay, anybody else? And move please.
Councilmember Tobin,
Nay.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Nay.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
The motion fails for lack of a 2/3 majority.
Agenda item number 6, bond resolution, City of Portland, New York, authorizing the issuance of additional 7.9 serial bond to finance the cost of reconstruction improvement in the downtown core.
So again, I could read the entire resolution if desired, but I will read the portions I think provide the relevant information. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Portland, New York, on October 1st, 2019, adopted bond resolution 254 of 2019 entitled Bond Resolution of the City of Portland, New York, authorizing the issuance of $5,925,000 serial bonds to finance the cost of the downtown core project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Portland, New York as follows. Section 1, The city is hereby authorized to undertake the construction, reconstruction, major repairs, alteration, extensive or enlargement of the necessary works of all kind for the improvement of waterways and drainage or additions thereto, including streetlights and streetscapes, whether or not including buildings, aperture net or incidental thereto, lands or rights and lands, original furnishings, equipment, machinery, and apparatus, or the replacement of such equipment, machinery, or apparatus at an estimated maximum cost of $13,825,000, consisting of an increase of $7,900,000. Section 2, the plan for financing of such new maximum authorized cost of $13,825,000 shall be as follows. A, by the issuance of $5,925,000 serial bonds of the city heretofore authorized to be issued pursuant to the original resolution. And B, the issuance of an additional 7.9 million serial bonds of the city authorized to be issued pursuant to this resolution.
Okay, I can motion. Mr. Beckett, Mr. Carpenter. Kristen?
Just same questions as before. I mean,
I think this one's a little bit different in the sense that it's a cash, it's replacing the cash that has been spent for doing these projects. Well, maybe, Mr. Shea, you want to go on to the in-depth of what was allocated for bonds and what was allocated for cash, and, you know, but it has put in as a cash flow crisis. I think that was brought up earlier. Sure.
The whole project here, which is basically Clinton Street, Groton Street, Main Street, DRI, okay? Should you all look at one as a whole here? I don't know, okay? But the bottom line is, we borrowed $25 million. We could borrow $25 million to do what was called the water sewer storm sewer project. We spent 23.9, basically we got like $1.8 million left on that. On the DRI project, we bonded for, I think it was 5.9. We spent 12.2, okay? So we're over budget by $7.7 million, okay? That money was paid out of the general fund, water fund, and sewer fund. So right now, the capital fund is gonna owe those three funds that $7.9 million. If you do not approve the $7.9 million, then those funds are gonna take a hit for whatever their share is of that. Okay? Meaning that there'll be another deficit added to those funds. This 7.9 was real capital money, okay? That probably should have came back to this council at some point before. It did not, okay? That's, in my mind, water over the dam. This is why we have trouble paying bills, okay? Because this was money that was spent on the projects to be done. And failure to pass this is gonna keep the city from paying bills. I won't say right now, but it's gonna be the latter part of this year. It's gonna be very difficult, probably to make a lot of different payments. I won't get into any of that. This is basically gonna take the 7.9 and allocate it over the next 30 years, like it should have been. It's just like everything else that was done on this project, okay? Why it didn't come here, I can't answer that question, okay? But just keeping it in the funds and not doing it the way it should have been done is only gonna be a detriment to the city going forward. And I can't say a small detriment, I think a major detriment. Mr. Michaels asked me a question yesterday, like, what's our debt look like, okay? I could tell you, having gotten off the phones with Moody's, they do not think our debt long-term is bad. They're concerned about our short-term debt, not able to make our payments. They look at our short-term debt on our balance sheet and they say, you don't have the cash to pay that. That's a problem, okay?
Yeah.
If this was to be passed, I'm not telling you that it's gonna give us a good rating, okay? It won't hurt our rating, okay? If we don't do this, I think it does hurt our rating, because all of a sudden they see all these liabilities that we have to make. How are we gonna make those payments?
what's our rating right now?
Excuse me?
What's our rating right now?
The one that was done in December by Fitch was 3Bs, okay? I'm not sure what Moody's is, okay? That's not a very good rating,
Right.
okay? I'm not sure what Moody's is gonna do. I need them to close on the WIPIA loan by March 15th, and I'm working with them to try to get that. And I owe them a lot of information, and depending on how this goes, is what I tell them tomorrow. If you look at the total project as a whole, and right, I went after we talked this afternoon. This total project, I think, was originally, when it was done, was supposed to have like $35 million, was supposed to be all the water sewer, storm sewers for the project, get $12 million in grant and end up with 23 million. Is that what it was? Mayor, was it looked at something like that? What this is gonna end up when we're said and done, we have $16 million on the WIFIA loan, and I think another 3 million, on top of that, maybe 5. I don't have all the exact numbers in front of me, so we'll be very close to that number. I do think when we're all said and done, of your original plan of 35 and bringing it down to 23, I think we're gonna be closer to 25 to 26 million is what we'll have to borrow on that whole project. And that will be broken up between the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund. This doesn't all fall back on the general, okay? There's still some money that's calculated in here that has to be paid out to finish up the DRI project. Just want to make sure I have anything else here.
Did you?
Yeah, one comment to start, you said over budget by about 7 million, and that's, well, when the plans were done, the 5.5 was the DRI, but we knew the infrastructure work was gonna be more than that, which is one of the reasons why we saw it, and we're fortunate to get the WIFIA loan. And if you look back at documentation, it shows that there was a portion of the WIFIA loan that was to cover infrastructure work on Main Street. And from what I've seen and what I can tell is council, at one point you were asked to renovate basements on Main Street, but you weren't given a price tag for them. That was an add-on. There was conversation about the water service, and while the main might have stayed about the same size, the pipes that run from the main to the properties was increased, I believe, to 4 inches to each property, which is a change in the service, and that added up in terms of the changes. That's probably one of the reasons why this took 3 seasons of construction instead of 2. So there's these additional projects, i.e. the Groton Avenue parking lot, that were taken on. And I don't recall looking through the minutes, anything that council approved in terms of what that parking lot was gonna cost. So there's been additional expenditures since the project was begun. And yes, sometimes things are gonna run up, but we are not getting any sort of detail about what those expenditures are. So we're being told 7.9 million. What is that 7.9 million?
You want me to start?
Yeah,
Starting from your administration.
okay.
DRI was issued in 2017. Yeah, you didn't even bother to launch it until this mayor came into office. By then, your costs have risen by several million dollars. You don't put a Band-Aid on a project and expect your aging infrastructure to last another 20 years. When you do a project, you want to make sure you do it right the first time, not come back and tear up your streets in 5 years. I've reviewed these basement vaults with DPW and the mayor. These vaults were shot. They were shot. They wouldn't have lasted with the traffic for another 5 years. You start a project and run out of money and have Main Street torn up for 5 years until you get another 5 million or 7 million to finish it. No, this mayor took the project on and finished it. He did what he was supposed to. Regarding the water mains, why keep the same existing mains when most of these buildings require fire sprinkler systems, which cover much more volume of water? You have no concept, Ryan, of construction. And I'm sorry to say it, but I can see why you let the next administration try to handle this for you.
I think, I don't think you need comments, so I think I think the valid question on the cost overruns, there was many things that attributed to it. And many things that goes back to even the water project at the waterworks that ran over budget. Broughton Ave ran over, or Clinton Ave ran over budget. It wasn't funded to go from Church Street to Main Street. That was additional cost. Certainly Groton Ave parking lot was additional, but it made sense at the time because they had to change the entrance and try to alleviate some of that and get some of those done at the same time. And then on Main Street, the designs, there was $1.7 million spent in engineering before we even started. And then we had to move the water mains to one side of the street and the other because National Grid vaults run across the other side. The vaults that had to be done, not only were some of them in rough shape, but we lowered the street level a foot. So by doing that, I don't know if the impact should be on the landowners to be able to do that, and moreover, there was no time to do it, because when I came into office, the state told me we had to have it done by the end of the year. I said to them, if we have substantial work done by the next year, which we did do, and we had to do it in 3 years, is pretty good time for what that magnitude of that construction. I took abuse from the first tree I tore down from elected officials that represent the municipality, and fought every step of the way and tried to help all those business owners to do that and those landowners to do that. It's my belief and understanding that the values of those properties have already gone up significantly. Revenues have gone up for sales, and we'll have every one of those buildings occupied, by probably June. So we have 3 grand openings coming up. And then we have another franchise that I just worked on a deal on. So we've made it a priority not only to manage that project, which I remind, when I came into office, the streets were tore up. Nice, they had already started doing the gas lines. We had already come in, the bids weren't even done yet. And we were way over. And in the budget plan to pay for that construction, there was $5 million, just under $5 million was planned on to pay for as we had cash out of our pocket. And that's part of this $7.9 million that we don't have that cash. We didn't have any of that to be able to handle it. So we can go on to a lot more details, but I'm not as interested in pushing onto blame, because I don't know how you would ever know that there was no sewer main design from Brew to the Cortland Standard, or there was no streetlights from Brew to the Cortland Standard. I don't know that I would have caught that, and I have that detailed eye. The packet of plans is that thick. I don't know that anybody could do that. But there was inherent errors that we had to deal with throughout the whole construction. And, I'm disappointed that, that through different professionals that are hired to make sure that these were bonds and everything was in place and everything was in a chronological order, because quite frankly, it wasn't my level of detail and understanding. And I believe that was financed under that complicated plan that was prepared, and there was grants that didn't come through. There was TAP grants that were anticipated that didn't come in. There was many different, I'm not gonna call them failures, because, a lot of times you put together a design, you hope for the best, but you can't always know that COVID's gonna come and construction's gonna go up that much. Prevailing wage went up 3 times for this project, and it went up twice before I even started. So it went up 5 times from the initial quotes of what that DRI was. And I don't know how anybody could ever predicted that or been able to do that, but frankly, it gets a bit old that, if that wasn't managed, it could have run a lot worse than it did. I sit back, and it's easy to sit in the back seat and slap me in the head and say, turn left. But I sit here and I say, are there things that I would have done differently? Probably, absolutely, 100%. And it would have been firing that engineering firm right out the door. But I didn't want to send the project backwards, so made that conscious decision, and we moved forward on the best foot we could and fought them every step of the way, and still are fighting for, design work as simple as this. The guys with the streetlights that took the old streetlights down are saying that they were just in the contract that was just to disconnect the power, not actually remove the streetlights. So those continual problems, and that's what Chuck was alluding to, those construction fights and battles have been happening ever since day one. We all know the turmoil and destruction and attacks that have happened all the way along the way. And, you know, I sit here and try not to respond to it because it's just negativity. I think we need to accept the positivity of that great vision to make it a two-way street. You know what I mean? Let's accept those as our willingness, because I think it's been highly successful, although some accidents, some situations that we'd like to change differently, but there's even bump outs that we had to put in because those vaults were still there. We couldn't get them low enough. Even with the construction we had, we didn't add bump outs. So I don't know how anybody could ever predict that, or everybody was trying to do that amongst Groton Ave, finishing Clinton Ave, and doing that all at the same time. And I had to finish the waterwork project that was over there that went over $1 million. That was a lot smaller project than they are. So I feel like overall that, you know, we burnt the cash to be able to do that. I truly believe, and kind of makes sense to me, that 2.4 million, was budgeted in the do from, figured it would get it back, just based on some other misunderstandings that there was not understanding on the chips that we later find out. But again, I'm not blaming anybody for that. I take full responsibility because it's under my watch and it's where it is. But we're committed to make this work and to make things happen, but we have to fix our cash flow issue so we don't have those cash flow problems that we had before.
Well, Mayor, I think we can all agree that Main Street looks great. And I think that there's a real point of pride in people in their city, in their hometown, because of how good it looks. So between administrations who pulled it off, you've carried the ball across the line in a big way.
But I don't want to undermine the foresight to make it happen. That was a big achievement.
Right.
Great to do it. I don't want to live it again. I want to live it now. It was an absolute 100% nightmare, and certainly don't get paid enough to
It
deal
was
with
a
it.
massive, massive project.
It
And
is.
that explanation that you just gave was really helpful to understand where we went over budget and why, and problems that you ran into that I wasn't aware of. That's really helpful. That's information I can use to explain to constituents, right? What sort of work is left to be done?
I mean, the work to be done to close out the grant is some past payments. Again, we're fighting with, we're having discrepancies to make sure that the value of what we paid for, we're getting. And, you know, we're continuing with those. So there's a couple open items that are being worked out. Items of rough stone, is that level of detail to making that work. But, and then the artwork projects have to be completed as well. There's $500,000 left to us, due to us for the DRX.
Yes.
Reimbursements, again, the bond amount was for $5 million, and that $5 million is not, we have to pay that back. We don't get to keep that. That goes back to them. So that's, again, where the cash needed to be. And that was a misunderstanding I had too, that I thought we could keep that cash, but we can't keep that bond. That was a whole part of the long-term debt, but that's not why it was designed. So again, trying to pick up those pieces of another whole complicated, and I'm gonna use the knot scenario, same thing. Sometimes you gotta pull out those whole knots, and then, you know, I can't guarantee you that I'm not gonna have to go through another loop to be able to do it, but that's really what we're up against with these things. And I think I just wanna make sure everybody understands, like, we're talking, you know, $600 to $1 million every year we're passing those bans on. It's a killer. That's part of the cash flow. So we're burning that every time. If we don't pass this one now, we're another $600,000. I'm gonna guess, just to get through the rest of this year, that we have to carry on and carry over to the other ones. And then also, I think, you know, one interview with Moody's, that was why they downgraded us last time, is our cash flow where we are. I don't think any of that's unsurmountable. I don't think 2.5 million is unsurmountable. I don't think any of it, you know, doesn't warrant alert and attentiveness and decisiveness and tough decisions. But I don't think it's unmanageable either, and not unrealistic based on some of the things we know that are already being achieved and have already been achieved in the short couple months that we've already looked at this. So That's all I have to say.
I did sit through a lot of these construction meetings. And, to find, that, they're supposed to run, piping one way to find if there's an 18-inch main in the way, and how they're gonna get around it. And the drawings did not show the depth of that. They're hitting water mains that, on the drawings, that weren't even supposed to be there. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We never did get to Central Ave like we wanted to. Just because of cost.
Yeah.
But you'd be looking at probably what, another 3 million?
We physically couldn't fit the pipe that they designed to do that. So again,
Yeah.
it goes back to some engineering design flaws that we couldn't change and we were too far into it, so. But again, I don't know how we could borrow those costs on others.
So if you're gonna do it, you do it right, or you don't do it at all. It's something I've always lived by.
I'm hearing a lot of frustration from folks who know how much they owe to the city in taxes and they know they have to come up with it. And they look at the council grouping a bunch of new debt and not having a good sense of the long-term decision-making we're gonna have to make. Mr. J, you acknowledged earlier that with the financial situation, the 2.4, I believe it is, we have to make up. It's gonna require the council making difficult decisions. And I guess I'm wondering if it would make more sense for us to table this, so we can go back to our constituents when we have a sense for what those difficult decisions are going to be. And what decisions we're gonna make as a council to address our financial situation. Before tacking on more debt that I think people, from what I'm hearing, are having a hard time understanding. Why we're doing this now. And I think the fact there's so much confusion around this hurts the public perception of the council and the work we do here. And I'd like your response.
First of all, I don't think it's just the council's decision. I think it's gonna be the mayor's decision, the council decision, and department heads have to make some hard decisions. How do we get part of that 2.4 million back? It's not gonna get back in 1 year, I guarantee you that. Okay, there's no way you can do that unless you just cut the fire police department, you ain't getting that 2.4 back. That's a fact. This 7.9 without getting this, okay, I can't tell you what's gonna happen, but I can tell you it won't be good. Okay, if Moody's downgrades us, the Whitfield loan probably doesn't pass. Okay, it's probably out the window. That's $600,000 the first year in interest we have to pay, whether we go regular bond or through the Whitfield loan. Okay, I don't know what their rating level is that they'll accept. They've already downgraded it for us to what Fitch had and said that's acceptable. If Moody's downgrades that again, and I'm not saying that this is gonna make the difference, okay, because I don't know that. Everyone's keeping everything close to their chest, okay, whether it's Whitfield or Moody's, okay? But I can tell you that our cash position gets worse, which this will do, okay? That does not help us, okay? Second of all, this is truly an expense as a capital expense. It's not an expense on the water fund or the sewer fund or the general fund as a one-time expense. That's by not approving this, that's what you're saying. You're gonna put $7.9 million in those funds for 1 year. It wasn't budgeted, it's gonna make a deficit. Worse. I can't tell you any other way.
Would there be harm in tabling this until we have some more answers for our constituents?
I cannot tell you what 25 is gonna be next week, and I can't even tell you that next week is enough to get by Moody's. Because they have to have all their information in to WIFIA by the 15th. Okay, I'm pushing that to see if I can push it out. Okay, I don't have an answer on that. Okay, if you push it up to the next meeting, I might be able to do something for the closing of the bonds in May. Okay, because everything has to be on an official statement by early April.
But we feel there may not be enough time to get WEFIA's answer. We can guarantee, I gotta get these numbers right, $100,000 is a percent? Is that what we determined, 75?
What's that?
Was a percent tax increase? Is that right? Isn't it, or is it 75? I can't remember which.
That's
But I guarantee you,
$1,000 is about 1% of the property tax.
Yeah,
So if we raise by 100,000, it's an increase to taxes of 1%.
yes.
Right. So to go, just use those comparisons, whether you're looking at the, you know, that if you look at $600,000 that we know it's gonna cost, we can guarantee that that 600,000 that's gonna add a 6% starting from there. You know what I mean, to try to make ends work, just to cover that debt payment, but it doesn't solve the problem. I would rather spend that $600,000 in reducing this debt, that spend the $600,000 on interest for, and then you have to do a tax increase of 6%. So that would be an argument back to the total.
So it's gonna be worse if we don't pass it.
I think so. My personal opinion, in many different ways, okay? The cash flow, the problems that trying to manage the cash, I think we run out of cash before the end of the year, honestly, okay? If that's the case, gonna come back here and do some type of deficit financing, which is much more expensive. Okay, there's a whole gamut of stuff that's associated with this that I can't even tell you what's gonna happen. I mean, we missed some important payments already this year, okay? It's been taken care of, okay? Mostly due to, we didn't have the tax bills go out in time, okay? But as soon as that payment got missed, my phone was ringing off the hook from the state. So. I'm just, maybe on the bearer of bad news, okay, but this is not money that was spent in the general fund. For a general fund project or cover the police or fires. This was done on this project, okay? And if it was all done properly right, this wouldn't be a conversation today. This would have been passed 2-3 years ago, okay? That didn't happen, okay? Here we are today to make it right, okay? That's what I'm doing. Since I got here, it's been mostly about how do you fix the cash, what's the problem? And this is what everything points to, is that we spent this money out of water, sewer, and general fund to fund this project, as well as the water plant fund. We didn't borrow 1.4 million on that. I think that project came in at 4.4 and we borrowed 3 million. So there's $1 million worth of cash that we used elsewhere or from other funds to fund the water plants improvements. So it's a matter of going through all this detail, trying to understand what happened and trying to get the mayor to understand and what we have to do to fix the problem and make it right. And that's what I believe this is doing. This is making it right. Is it a lot of money? Sure. It's over 30 years, still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But if you look at the scope of the whole project, it's over $30 million. I think probably 35 million. And is the city better for it? I think so. If I talk to residents, if I talk to people down on Main Street, everyone's very positive about it.
Thanks, John.
It won't be when they get another 1 or 2%, 6% tax increase.
Let's try to avoid that.
I know a lot of people are on a fixed income. I'm also on a fixed income. My wife finally retired fully now, at the end of December. You think it's a pleasure to sit here and increase taxes? For individuals that may be having a hardship worse than us? I don't feel good about it at all. But this is something that needs to be done. Let's put this behind us and move forward.
Anybody else? Again, recognizes 2/3 majority. So you're up.
Councilmember Tobin,
Nay.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Nay.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Right.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Motion fails on the 2 no votes.
We need to see where the city's finances are before we can prove large amounts like this just going out the door.
City's been in worse situations than this.
This is not going out.
I remember when I first came on board, Andy Down was having trouble making payroll. He was waiting for sales tax revenue to come in. I remember one year we had to borrow money to make payroll. I'm not quite sure whose administration that was. But I remember that vividly. So it's not the first time the city's been in dire straits and we pulled out of it. We have a strong community.
I think people would have a lot more peace of mind if we had at this point, having found the issues in the budget back in January, if we had some more answers about going forward, how we're planning to tackle. We're already into March, and I think there's a lot of frustration that.
Tom, I sat here and told you on Thursday what the difference was from what was originally posted, 7.2, how I got the 2.5. I told you, I feel comfortable with the revenues. I don't know 100% about the expenses. Okay, give it 3 million. That's what I think is the worst case. Okay, I said that to you Thursday. If you're gonna wait till April, I don't think you're gonna get better numbers. Okay, but if you want to be an accountant, you come sit in my office and see what I had.
Well, you mentioned just tonight that we're gonna have to make some difficult decisions here going forward based on the financial situation. And I
This
think
meeting
having,
was-
I think having a conversation about what those difficult decisions are going to be. Before approving a bunch of new debt would be advisable.
That's gonna happen in the budget process unless you're gonna go
Well,
through.
we went through a budget process.
And
This
you guys approved it. I wasn't
I
here.
voted against the budget because I have concerns with the process. And I have ongoing concerns with the city's finances. And that's why I voted no. And I think from the constituents I've heard from, there's a lot of frustration about the dollar values we're sending out the door when everyone knows how much their property taxes have gone up. I don't think we're communicating to the public. I think we're doing the council and the city disservice by not communicating better.
Well, according to Chuck, this is now gonna make it worse, so you can tell them that.
Chuck said earlier he wasn't sure whether or not this would.
I can tell you
No.
that cash is gonna be
No.
tight, okay? I can't go spend some money that I would normally spend now. Every dollar that goes out the door is gonna have to be scrutinized.
And when we have more answers to this, I'd be happy to revisit it, but currently I'm not comfortable supporting.
I don't think we can revisit it, can we? So done,
Well, it should have been communicated better coming into this.
let's all get in our time machines.
What would you like to have, what would you like to hear, what communications would you like to hear? I mean, we went through in the budget and finance meeting, sat through, we discussed where we are, what we're addressing, where everything's at, where we anticipate to go. There's nobody that has their budgets done now and closed out for 2025 at this time yet, because they're still making payments because your bills roll in afterwards for that. So we're getting that done. We talked about getting the 2024 audit done, getting that documentation up to speed, making sure we have everything for the WEPA and the 16 million. Those are all important processes that need to happen. And, you know, we can't punish, you're gonna punish the very constituency that you're trying to promulgate as this is their concerns or issues. We all fully get the same thing. I think everybody has addressed that. But by not putting a long-term debt into a long-term debt and trying to pay for that out of cash that we do not have is not a solution that's going to work short-term or long-term. And it could affect, and I think we know it won't affect in a negative way if it happens, but we know it's gonna affect 16 million. We know it's gonna hit us for $666,000 of interest, plus any and all other dealings and late fees and problems and phone calls and issues. Quite frankly, you know, I shouldn't have to deal with it. I shouldn't have had to deal with that. That should have been dealt with. It should have been planned on. It should have been planned. And now Chuck's come in, we're hired a professional, he's professional coming in to deal with this and giving us his best opinion on how to untie this knot. This is one step phase to do that. Now, we can't give all the answers to everybody on everything on everybody, but we do know if worst case, to go back to your question, Katie, on the part serial bond, we do know that, you know, it's a 0.5% increase that they would have to pay every year if it stayed at the current rate. If assessed values didn't go up and all that, there's a bunch of variations, but we can say that, is it worth that? I mean, I think you would have that conversation, but to say to somebody that you're gonna raise their taxes 6% just because we didn't put our debt load where we needed to go because you're waiting for some numbers. I mean, we held off for, I think, 3 meetings, 2 to 3 meetings, we held off on approving the wastewater treatment contract. And no more information, nothing more is to be done. But it was the right conscious move to be able to happen to get these people taken care of. But to do this, you know, I mean, it's just as concerning to me as, you know, 4 years ago when I tried to cut $3 million to do something with the healthcare system. I think you know, I think it's a prudent, and it's just, it's a huge concern to not do this.
Well, with all due respect, the bond rating for the city has been downgraded by Fitch for the past 5 years. I believe these financial issues are not.
But that's because our cash flow has gone down. Their bond rating has gone down because our cash flow has gone down. Our cash flow has been gone down because we're spending on construction. That needed to be fixed with those bands and be rolled over to take care of that. So that didn't happen. But instead, it was budgeted in a due from for $2.5 million, which is where we're being burned now. So I can't answer to that. I take responsibility for it. I don't know how I missed it, but it is what it is. And, you know, again, but we can't just pile incompetence on top of incompetence. And that's what I feel that this is.
Now, here's the fact, okay, come May 15th, I have to pay $5 million. Okay, to pay down all the grant money we received. Where do you think that's coming from?
I think the city's put itself in a terrible situation financially, and the cash flow issue is only one of a number of factors mentioned by Fitch in terms of the city finances and why our bond rating has taken a hit. So I think saying blaming it just on the cash flow issue is not accurate based on the reports.
I don't disagree with you, but the cash flow is the immediate concern right now. It is an immediate concern.
And that's bond reimbursements.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but bond reimbursements that have come in.
Yes, I have to pay back $5 million on May 15th. I have about 12 million in cash. Not to mention, what do I owe to the school district? What do I owe the county of that $12 million?
So taxes will go up 6%. And everything else will pile on top of that. Because we did not pass this.
What I can tell you is that there's gonna be a $600,000 increase in our ban next year because of this, if we don't get the FEMA grant. That's a fact.
Okay, so we can look back at today when constituents come to us next tax time and say, oh, well, there you go. This was 6% of whatever.
We don't know, we don't know that we'll be asking for 6%. I don't think we should just throw that number out there in the square.
Okay, the right number is $600,000.
Yeah.
That is a number that's a fact.
That's a fact.
So today is a product too, it's not one day. I mean, the general fund reserves have been decreased each year. The city has been out of budget by 7 figures for the last couple of years. This is not a last year problem. This has been an ongoing issue. And again, 7.9 million, we need to be more diligent about what is going out the door. And Tom, you said you walked through those basements, you saw they were in rough shape. They're privately owned. And I don't think taxpayers should be paying for those private basements to be renovated. And was council ever given a price tag for what they were?
Each vault was different size, different construction.
But there was a cost. Were you asked to approve and did you put a bond anticipation note for the cost of that up front? This is not, this is us being responsible based upon irresponsible past spending.
These vaults weren't inspected until after the project had started.
Right.
They
If you
should
wanna
have
pass,
been.
yeah, it should have been looked at before, and you wanna pass blame, you wanna play that game, then that's fine, but again. The vaults are out, they're not in there, to make sure this clear, they're outside of their buildings, they're from the front of that building out. So you could have stopped the project, gone into litigation, or said to all 15 owners that they have to adjust their vaults and get an engineer, get it designed to state DOT specs to make sure that it's acceptable to the road, because we're lowering the road, or because we don't feel like your vault's gonna be adequate enough to handle the weight.
Point
of
information, lowering the road was a foot of the crown. The crown of the road, middle of the road.
And
The
then
sidewalks are the same height as what they were before.
at the doors, now they fell off after that, and they went down from that point on, so it wasn't just there. And it was more than a foot in the crown, but the whole thing dropped, but then it also had to do with drainage, and it also had to do with other areas and variances that are there, so please don't try to school me on what happened in that project. And again, if that's 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 your final vote, then we'll move on and I just. It's involved.
So. Chuck is saying we'll address. During the next. Budget season, where we're gonna do the big cuts. And a lot of that comes from. The department heads. When they look at their individual budgets. We clearly can't wait that long. Right? To get the cash flow problem under control. So what would you need to hear or discuss? In order to approve a bond for cash flow?
We need a better understanding of where we currently are. And part of that is knowing where the 2025 financials are. And having an understanding of, hey, if we're paying for this, how much is that gonna cost? So we talked about the WIFIA loan, this additional monies. It is potentially putting more debt on the taxpayers. And we should not be moving forward until we know where we're at financially.
But what I'm hearing, granted and very valid. What I'm hearing is that we're putting more debt on by not getting more cash flow as well. Like we're just digging a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. And I don't want to die on that hill. Now I'm on a hill, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I want the most expedient solution to the immediate problem.
Chuck, what was the total amount of the bond that was projected to be, total amount of all the bonds that was projected to do these construction projects?
The total amount? 25 plus 5, so like 30, 31.
And where are we gonna be at?
$12.2 plus 23. So what's that, 35?
So it's not a significant difference from where you're at, where it was planned and where we are at.
Well, I know the Councilmember Pinella isn't able to be here tonight, she's under the weather, but this was a position of the entire membership of the Finance Committee.
She has never been to a meeting, so I don't know when the Finance Committee has been there, so I don't know.
Well, we've spoken with her, and she's conveyed to me that
But she hasn't gotten any information from any professionals or staff, and we haven't really even talked about that level of detail of where everything's at.
Well, she and myself, and I believe, Mr. Tobin as well, had made a motion before this meeting to table the vote on these two resolutions so we could get more clarity. The Finance Committee's also made requests for information where we haven't heard back on, including access to munis and some agenda items.
Right.
I would be willing to consider switching my vote if the Finance Committee is able to all introduce resolutions on next council agenda for the information it needs to do its work going forward. Because today we've not heard back on requests for information.
Well,
I'm not looking to be obstructionist here, but I think this is reflective of longstanding issues with the city finances. And if I'm gonna switch my vote to a yes, I need to make sure I get the information to address these concerns going forward.
again, when we implemented the Finance Committee, we had that one meeting that I'm aware of, so if there's other meetings going on, that's great, it's fine, I guess. But it'd be nice, if that's what you're telling me, because you're saying a resolution was made from that Finance Committee.
I filled in the other member of the Finance Committee on our conversations.
Right, so then that other Finance Committee person then decided that they needed to have access to munis. Which again, I think having the professionals in the room and understanding where everything's at, understand where that is and what that level is gonna be an important factor in doing that. Accessing munis is not an easy task and or there's more to even getting access to that. Access to reports, I mean, nobody's holding up anything. That Finance Committee needs to be engaged and should be educating this group of what exactly is going on. We should be having a long discussion in this meeting to try to figure out what the answers are to those questions and standing up or doing that. That needs to happen. So let's get meetings scheduled. Let's not cancel them. Let's be there. Let's all 3 or 4, whatever the case might be there, put together some kind of direction and some kind of resolution. We'll do it. Like if you really need a resolution to get the information that committee
We haven't
needs.
received responses to requests.
They're coming from they're not coming from that committee. I was at that committee. Those are questions at the committee. I said, what would you like to see? When would you like to see the next meeting? Those are issues that we need to do, and the professionals and the staff will give it whatever they need to be able to do that. That's part of working together as a team, but independently, Mary Claire sent an email saying that she would like to have access to Munis. The finance committee wants to have access. There's no, what's the validity of that?
As I've mentioned to you privately, I'm willing to make myself available anytime to work on this.
So.
And I have made myself available. I'm trying to get to a compromise here.
And we'll give the finance committee anything they need to get what
And I
they have to
appreciate
get done. But I'd rather it not be done in a vacuum or a bubble or email or phone calls or however this is happening. I would like to get the real facts, everybody in the room with the professionals in the room to have those conversations. That's all I'm asking. And anything they want or anything that's needed, 100% carte blanche, go.
Well, we haven't gotten responses to requests to date, and I think.
This is the first time hearing it is from the finance committee. It was independent people asking for it. I never heard it was the finance committee and asking for resolutions that have agenda items that have the account numbers and accounts to and from. That's been in there. To not exceed has been in there. That's still there. We're doing all that. And I don't know if we need a resolution to do that, but we need to see them. You can call it out. It's not here. Say, we discussed this.
Then it's a point of clarity. Can we, since I am new on the council, discuss how members go about introducing resolutions for the agenda? I think that would be helpful.
If the finance committee decides they want to have something, if the parking committee decides they want to have something, if anybody else has something. Tom's come up and said we need to deal with something for e-bikes. It makes sense. He goes to that department. He discusses it with the department, and the fire department, I think, was the one that championed that one, right? And then they move that forward to try to get that to happen. They work with Sequoia Corporation Council, and everybody works together to make what happens. I mean, this is our city. This is what we want to do together as a group, to make the best for our citizens. And I think steel sharpens steel. It's good to have these debates, and it's good to have them in public, not be, private. That's I don't know, we gotta understand the context of what's going on. You have something.
Shelby, I sent an email back in January asking, how would a council member put an agenda item on? And I did not receive a response. I was in City Hall with Randall. I talked to you the Tuesday before council meeting, and the conversation, Mr. Jewett, was that you preferred items were given the Tuesday before close of business. And granted, that evening, it was after close of business, I sent some items, so I understand why we may not have been included. Last week, I'd sent an email with these 4 agenda items, and I did not get a response at all. So I'm confused about can any single council member ask to have something put on the agenda, or does it have to come from a committee?
Usually it comes from a department head or the department that it fits or what that makes to happen. So you are the liaison to audit and finance, correct?
I am.
Okay.
I am a city council representative, and this is the city council meeting. And I am under the impression that council members should be able to put items on the agenda. If that is not the case, then let me know.
Well, nobody's saying you can't. We're saying.
That's not what you just said.
You have to.
No, at the same time, there is no precedent for that, and if you look back.
Nobody has asked to place an agenda item on?
I go back through the minutes during your administration and tell me if you find that.
People has to have agenda.
Okay, well,
placed on the agenda.
And also to be clear, what you provided was a list of assertions, claims. I didn't see anything there that was in the form or objective of a resolution as you see on the agenda. You sent me a list of information that you wanted, assertions, claims, et cetera, et cetera. None of that was in the form of a resolution to do something constructive. It was airing of grievances.
I'm not pleased by that last statement that I was submitting things that were not constructive. And we can go through, I'm going to post this publicly, but the first resolution I asked for was a finance advisory committee, 3 council persons and up to 3 council members to be appointed by the mayor with approval of the council, an ad hoc committee that will meet periodically to review the city's financial status and make recommendations to council. And the city has had that in the past.
I think
And it was valuable.
you said 3 council people, and you said 3 council people, then the two.
We do have,
About that.
we do have that right now.
With the potential addition of community members who have
So
expertise in finance.
if they decide they wanna have help.
So this
they
goes
will.
back to Mr. Jewett's
But we already
assertion that I was apparently casting aspersions or not doing things productive. The second one, all agenda items involve revenue costs shall detail the exact amounts or not to exceed for costs. Expenditures will identify which budget lines will cover said costs, and revenue will be dedicated to specific budget lines in the resolution. If budget line transfers are required, they will be completed within 3 business days of council approval.
What's the date of this,
When I sent the email
of this that you're reading from?
last Tuesday,
So that, again, that's all done with the exception of posting those transactions.
there's been agenda items passed that had costs, that the costs were not conveyed. And then the 4th resolution, there's a number of bullet points. Some of these are things that should be in place, keeping Munis up to date, which tragically was not done in the past. Having set budget lines cannot be overrun, which would prevent over expenditures. And the system can do that, but was not happening. Payments by credit cards, purchase recs, cash, other to be shared monthly with council. Part of the corrective action plan after the comptroller's audit was that credit card statements be shared with council. And it appears that council has not gotten those. Case in point, when I foiled for the mayor's credit card, I found a number of over expenditures and items that were not itemized. And the interest rate started at 13%, that credit card went up to 30-something% because there were so many late fees. These are things that council should be getting and have not. There's more here.
None of it was presented in a way that to me, I recognize as being a resolution to put on the agenda. I've received a number of communications from you of, different things. None of it has looked to me like a resolution.
Again, I think in the interest of what we want to do productively, try to move things in a positive direction, I think it's important that if the budget, and if that finance group decides that they want to do it, we put some criteria behind it and it makes sense, and we have a good discussion about it and talk about it with staffing levels to make sure we get the level of detail so that it can't be overridden by one person, which was happening, and then over expenditures. If that's the case, then those things are always great, and that's what we want to target for. Is the most important part is how to get it so it can't happen again. That's the most important part. Did you have something to say, Matt?
I did, and I want to go back to Mr. Conlon's point, and I'm not sure it was ever really answered. How do we get a resolution on the agenda? And I think that was basically your criteria for saying if it was doable, you might change your vote.
Yes, in addition to some information requests and things like that, but yes, I appreciate some clarification on that.
I've offered this to every council member and sometimes it was part of a broader conversation, so it may have kind of not been something that was stuck in their head because we were talking about a million different things. I mean, sometimes riding around in a car, sometimes having coffee somewhere. I'm more than happy to help draft resolutions. Putting something on the agenda is put on by putting a resolution on the agenda. That's typically the way our council has operated, is my understanding. So it needs to be in the form of a formal resolution. We don't stick 6 things on there that we'd like to chew the fat on tonight, so to speak. So it needs to be in the form of a formal resolution. That being said, they need to be done by Tuesday. If 7 council members come in with things they have from their different areas that they want to do on Tuesday, you're not going to get them on Tuesday. So it's going to take me time to draft them and along with everything else. You're welcome to take a crack at it. Some things you want to do a resolution for, you probably can come pretty close to one because the city's probably done 7 of them over the past 3 years. And you're welcome to give me something and I review it. Other things, when Tom had the issue with the bikes, we met several times, we went through things. We came through with a very voluminous proposal that went through it. That's been the case with several other areas that we went through. Something that's quick and easy, a simple resolution. The best ways to do that is for it to come out of a committee. For the finance committee to say, here's 3 resolutions we'd like to put on the agenda. We don't do it exactly how the county does. The county, it comes from the commissioner, their committee, through the liaison, and they're the ones that actually move it onto the county's agenda. You know, everything from finance Brian would be the one that made the motion on. I mean, if you sit at the county, the head of the finance committee is the one who makes the motion for everything finance. Everything for public safety is, you know, that one. That's not quite the way we do it, but I mean, obviously, if you're the liaison to the police department or fire department, you want that commission on board with it, you want that department head on board with it, hopefully. So I mean, running it through those channels first. Finance is a little bit different because there is no, now we do have a finance committee, so you've got the finance committee and Chuck is the director that you'd want to consult on. But I'm ready, willing, and able to help put resolutions together. You know, as far as information requests go, there's things that are readily available and things that aren't. You know, we get lots of FOIL requests all the time from people. If it's something that's readily available, I mean, I know Chuck has met with a number of the council members and is willing to meet with anybody that wants to meet with him to go through and, you know, put together numbers. I've sat in with, I know Brian and I sat together with Beth and tried to drill down some numbers. I'm happy to sit in too. For me, I used to have to ask Beth to explain things in regular speak, not accountant speak. People ask me to stop speaking lawyer speak regular speak. So sometimes it's helpful to have somebody else there to help you say, I don't get where you're going, so I don't follow that. I'm happy to sit down and do that as well. So yeah, we're here to get the information. We're here to get it done. You know, some of the things Brian put forward, maybe they're a resolution. Other ones might be recommendations that come from the finance committee that can be done as a recommendation first. And then if for some reason the administration chose to ignore that recommendation, maybe you push further with it. Or maybe you get an answer back that says, here's why that recommendation doesn't make sense for some reason or how we can tweak it.
I'm happy to hold off and sit down with you, Randall, and go through and streamline things.
Yeah, I think some of the things have been addressed, other ones, you know, maybe partially addressed. I mean, we have a finance committee now, so we're halfway there at least. I think the mayor has said if there's community members that wanted to be on it, I don't think he's opposed to appointing community members and having council confirm that as well. So I mean, I think some of them are there. I think Chuck, the way Chuck operates, those numbers you're asking for probably are gonna be in those things, Chuck.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I said, I think some of those things we're there on. Should we have been there before? Probably. But we're there now. Other things we may still, you know, we may want to push something forward. And like I said, I'll be happy to sit down with you, with Tom, whatever the group is, to come up with those things, get them into a formal resolution if need be, and then let council address it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you know exactly what you want the finance committee to have access to?
I think it'd be best if the finance committee had a discussion on that rather than me weighing in now, but I do appreciate the willingness to work.
Well, I'm really interested in overturning your vote, so I want to see that you get what you
It's
need.
gotta happen before yesterday.
Would you like to make a motion to reconsider?
Yes, I would like.
So we have a motion to reconsider. Can I get a second?
But we need to call a special meeting prior to that, the closing date.
Well, we would have to, he's rescinding his vote, so we have a motion on the floor to recall the vote for agenda item number 6. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so was that done? So we'll redo the vote count, and you can start again at the beginning, Mr. Jewett. This is for agenda item number 6, bond resolution for the city of Portland for 7.9 million.
Proceed to the roll. Councilmember Tobin.
Nay.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Thank you.
6 yeses, 1 nay.
Agenda item number 7, amend the 2026 sewer fund budget, 500 KW cogen system preventative maintenance agreement.
Resolved that the city of Fulton County Council does hereby amend the 2026 city sewer fund budget from account G 1990.540000 contingency with a starting total amount of $100,000 to account G 8110.541500 professional services with a starting total amount of $110,000 in the amount of $13,636 to remedy the existing shortfall in the professional services account.
I got a motion. Ms. Solomon, Michaels. Any questions?
Yeah, just make a quick, oh, sorry. Troy, let me just make it real quick though. This is a thing that you passed at the last meeting, I think.
Thank you.
And it was the total cost was 123,000 and the Joe from the wastewater treatment plant said that at 110,000, he was short some money. He had it someplace else in his budget. This is the 13,000, so this contract is all in one line and it'll be paid on a monthly basis.
Anybody else? Okay, move it, please.
Councilmember Tobin,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter, Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 8, amend the 2025 adopted budget to reallocate funds for parks and recreation vehicles.
Resolved that the city of Portland County Council does hereby amend the 2025 city budget as outlined in the accompanying table. From account A 7110.520600, which is operating equipment. Increase that line account by the amount of $69,838. For a new total budget amount in that line of $99,963.93. For account A 71010.42665, which is sale of equipment line. Increase that account by $8,476.00 for a new total budget amount of $8,476.00. For account line A 1325.42770 for help me with the abbreviations, Chuck. For operating equipment to decrease that line amount by $23,244.21 for a new budget line amount total of $114,286.47. Account line number A 7110.540500. Line for tools and equipment. Decrease that line by $4,929.13 for a new total budget line amount of $10,197.71. Account number A 7140540501 operating equipment. Decrease that line by $466.00 for a new line total amount of $24,466.00. And line A 7140.520600 interfund transfer. Decrease that line by $32,723.86 for a new total budget amount of $34,723.00.
Pretty fun. Hey, your motion. Ms. Wang. Michaels.
Yeah, I think before we do this, something's not right on this thing. Okay, I believe the 8/13/25 line is incorrect too. Okay, we swapped this on Friday afternoon. So I think we should table this.
Okay.
So,
So we got a motion to table. Okay. Michaels. All those in favor of the table, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any other information they need on this? As long as we're good on the table. We gotta work out the account lines, right?
yeah,
Any other questions anybody else have that Andrew can be very quickly? Okay, so we'll table to the next meeting. Agenda item number 9, amend the 2026 adopted sewer fund budget.
Resolved that the City of Portland County Council does hereby amend the 2026 sewer fund budget as outlined in the accompanying table. For account line G960.580000. Employee benefits line is the description. Increase that line by the amount of $200,000 and it'll have a new total budget amount of $200,000. Account number G00.42133. Other income, increase that line by $309,000 or a new total budget amount of $309,000. Budget line, account number G9730.56000. For the bond anticipation note principal. Increase that line by $109,000 for a new total budget line amount of $109,000.
I think they just read the table. I think the table is there. It's good.
Okay.
It's on the way. Unless anybody else wants that read into the minutes, I think we got the table that's attached. Yes.
Can I explain this? So item number 9, 10, and 11 are all related to the differences that we had in the 2026 budget, okay? Taking care of the $700,000 worth of CHIPS money and the line items that were in the budget that weren't weren't added to in the spreadsheet that you guys voted on was not part of that. This is correcting all that. And going through that, one of the things the first thing I found was that there was no insurance budgeted in the water and sewer fund. So when you look at the sewer fund here, G9060, we're increasing that expense $200,000. Okay, that's actually decreasing $200,000 in the general fund also. And the band principal was not, $109,000 was not budgeted in the original budget, so this was being added. This $309,000 is being covered by the NYSERDA funds that we're getting through New York State for the generator that we talked about earlier. The next, I'd rather do it all and then what Andy has to do. The next one is the water fund. They're moving over $300,000 in benefits for health insurance. We're decreasing because we did pass that 7.9 million. That grant money going against that shows as a pay down on the band, so we don't actually have to appropriate a principal payment against that. So I'm using 119,000 there. I'm going through the water department. We decreased the water samples by 5,000, maintenance contracts by 5,000, operating equipment by 5,000, other functional equipment by 50,000, and other equipment repair by 5,000. And I was stuck at finding any other money for it. There's basically about $1.4 million in fund balance. I'm using $110,000 of fund balance in the water fund to make this whole. Okay, with that, the DPW commissioner, Mike, and I have gone through this. We're gonna scrutinize everything and try to maximize everything we can in the fund balance to get that 110 back at the end of the year.
Okay.
And line number 11, taking the $720,000 that was in the CHIPS revenue line that we do not believe is accurate. Reducing that by 720. We're reducing the benefits by 500,000, 200 from the sewer fund, 300 from the water fund. The next set of items, the increases are the things that we're missing on the spreadsheet. Basically, personal services, equipment repair, FICA, so on and so forth. And then you see the other lines that we're decreasing. We're decreasing $56,000 for position in the mayor's budget that became vacant at the end of February, along with the benefits associated with it. We're reducing from the police budget $15,000 for their uniform. We didn't approve a new police officer to go to the academy, so that came out along with the benefits associated with that. In the fire department, reducing the training by 5,000, unused holiday time by 10,000, unused vacation, equipment operations by 5, another equipment operations by 5, professional services. Andy's department had some money out there for some professional services to do some additional things. We're taking that out of there. And the band principal at 296,000. Now, when you're looking at this, you can't just add and subtract because you got to understand what's a revenue and what's an expense. If I'm decreasing if you go to the first one in the line, decreasing a sales, okay, or a revenue line item, okay, that's basically a debit from an accounting side of point. If basically, we're reducing what we're going to get. Okay, so it's not gonna just add up and subtract like I think you're trying to do here, Brian. It's not gonna balance. I'd have to walk you through and go, what's a debit, what's a credit, and show you how it balances. Okay, so I'm using decreases and increases. Okay, if you're an accountant, you understand how that works, that would be helpful.
Well, Burnett.
Right, so I'm trying to, and I will train you. And let you
No, thank
understand
you.
it. Okay, but
Just
that's
like
what it is. So when you're doing budgeting, you're increasing a line or decreasing a line. Okay, you're not doing actually debits and credits.
All right, so we'll go back to agenda item number 9, which is the sewer budget. Can I get a motion? Second, let me get them all together.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that? If everybody has any questions, we'll group 9, 10, and 11 together. Can I get a motion to accept grouping those together? Mr. Carpenter, Ms. Lane, all those in favor of group them together? Opposed, all right, carried. So grouping agenda item number 9, which is the amendment 2026 adopted sewer fund budget. Agenda item number 10, amended 2026 adopted water fund budget. And agenda item number 11, amended 2026 adopted general fund budget. I'm gonna get a motion to do that. Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Conlon, any questions? Move it, please.
Councilmember Tobin.
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter. Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 12, accept and recognize donations to the youth group.
Finally, an easy one.
Resolved that the city of Portland County Council, on behalf of Mayor Steve and the Youth Bureau, expresses its gratitude for the generosity of the donors below. And be it further resolved that the common council hereby accepts the donations listed below and appropriates them to account A7010.42706 for Porch Fest. Donations from Coffee Mania in the amount of $100, Patrick Snyder, the amount of $100, Classy Cana, $250, Elm Tree Golf, $100, Red Jug Pub, $100, Mr. Alex, $100, Bailey Place, $100, Berkshire Hathaway, $100, and Theologic New York PC, $100 also.
$1.50.
Very nice.
Can I get a motion? Back up, Mr. Carpenter.
Just do the with David Fitzgerald, you guys are, you don't want to. David Fitz.
No.
I just wanted to do that.
You're not receiving. Unless, yeah, no, if you're giving, it's good. Okay.
I get that part. Yeah, start moving.
Anybody else?
Pluses.
Okay, well, Richard,
Councilmember Tobin.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Conlon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Okay, so anybody else have anything else to do better or good?
Yes. I would be on that finance committee. I'm not sure how much I can add, that's not my forte, I think I'd be learning more than I would be contributing.
Always help.
But if you guys want me, I would be consistent, I'm back at work, so it'd have to be after those hours.
I would love to do that. They're trying to schedule that time now, so maybe the three of you guys could grab some time with Jade real quick and just try to figure out a time that works for everybody. So, and I was trying to schedule it for a Wednesday. But we gotta keep it Chuck, because that's basically one Chuck there, but
Yeah,
Chuck's time in mind, that Mondays are no good, but
Monday and Thursday, well, Thursdays in the summer are not good for me, Mondays.
right, so Wednesday worked best, and then we were trying to do it like the meeting before, so Wednesdays before our meeting, so we can continue that same cycle, and then hopefully it would be nice for you guys to give back input to the council of where everything's at. That was the plan, so if we can make that day work sometime, I know lunch might work, I don't know.
I can make it work.
So if we can make lunchtime work, maybe, I don't know, I know you had a tough time, but I don't know if that works.
I can't do that.
I can make it.
So you guys have, maybe you can figure that out. And work with Jade after if you don't mind. So we'll put Katie on there so that, thanks to the volunteer. All right, with that, we'll move for adjournment. Colin, back with all in favor?
Aye.
Darren, thank you, everybody.